So Shavkat Rakhmonov had his fight with Ian Garry, and honestly, it wasn't his best showing. A lot of people are calling it a boring fight, but I didn't think it wasn't that bad. I was actually quite entertained. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a crazy back and forth war or anything like that, but it was a good fight. That said, the fight showed some cracks in Shavkat's game that have been popping up more often than lately. The biggest thing was his struggle with takedowns. He couldn't get Ian to the ground until the fourth round, and even then, it was because he finally committed to a proper takedown attempt. This has been a recurring issue for Shavkat. This was shown against Jeff Neal. People blame Neal for missing weight, saying that he had a weight advantage. And then against Wonderboy, the excuse was that Shavkat was injured. But now, Ian didn't even have any clear advantages. And Shavkat was healthy as far as we know. So what was the reason this time? It's starting to look like his takedown game just isn't as strong as people think it is. On top of that, his clinch work wasn't great either. He spent so much time holding Ian against the cage, but he wasn't landing anything significant. It felt like he was just wasting time instead of making something happen. We've seen him dominate opponents in the past, but in this fight, he looked a bit hesitant, like he wasn't sure what to do. And this kind of pokes holes in the whole mystique and aura surrounding Shavkat. People were out here saying that this guy could beat everyone, hyping him up, 17-0, that crazy record with all finishes. Now, don't get me wrong, that sounds all amazing on paper, but when you look closer at who he actually beat, it doesn't feel as impressive. Who are these guys? Are they top tier competitors? Because to me, he didn't really get tested until tonight. And even then, against Ian Garry, it wasn't the kind of performance you kind of expect from someone with that kind of hype. To me, this is why people might be overrating Shavkat a bit. He's definitely talented, but in this fight, his grappling didn't look sharp. The first round was basically just clinching with a little bit of action, and you can argue that Ian actually outstruck him overall. Shavkat didn't really start turning things around, in my opinion, until the fourth round, and even then, it wasn't that kind of dominance we've seen before. Then there's the striking. Ian started opening up in the third round with leg kicks and clean shots, and Shavkat struggled to deal with it. He couldn't keep Ian on the back foot, and it was obvious he wasn't comfortable when Ian applied pressure. Shavkat finally got a takedown in the fourth round, landing some ground and pound, and he had good moments there, but by that point, Ian already exposed some holes in his game. I mean, after all, Ian took Shavkat's back and almost choked him out. I remember thinking, wait, is Shavkat actually about to lose this fight? He managed to survive, but it was way too close for comfort. For someone who's supposed to be one of the best in the division, that kind of mistake is worrying. At the end of the day, Shavkat won round 1, 2, and 4, so he got the W. But in my opinion, it just wasn't impressive. And here's the thing, the narrative that Shavkat wins however he wants just doesn't hold up anymore. He barely scraped by freaking Ian Garry, and while Ian's a good fighter, this wasn't the dominant performance that people were expecting. Shavkat showed that he has some real vulnerables, especially against guys who can mix things up and push the pace. Now, if you're asking me, I don't see Shavkat beating Belal Muhammad. Belal is on another level when it comes to the fight IQ, cardio, and controlling the pace. He's the type of guy who thrives against opponents like Shavkat, who needs time and space to work. Belal doesn't give you that. He pressures you, mixes up his striking and his wrestling, and forces you to fight his fight. What makes Belal so dangerous is his relentless pace. He doesn't slow down. And that's something we've seen Shavkat struggle with. Against Ian, Shavkat looked hesitant at times, like he was second guessing himself. Against someone like Belal, that hesitation would cost him the fight. Belal would just keep pushing, making Shavkat work consistently and wear him down over 5 rounds. Because honestly, the guy is like a cardio machine. He doesn't slow down. He just keeps going and going, like one of those people who run marathons for fun. When you're in a fight, especially at this level, cardio is everything, and Belal's got it in spades. His ability to keep up that relentless energy, even in the later rounds, is what separates him from a lot of guys in the division. Now, his pressure, that's where he really shines. Belal isn't out there giving you time to think or catch your breath. He's in your face the entire time, whether it's with strikes, takedown attempts, or just grinding you against the cage. It's exhausting, not just physically, but mentally, because you never felt like you can get comfortable. He's consistently forcing his opponents to react to him, and that is what wears people down over time. And I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, Shavkat just doesn't seem built to handle that kind of pace and wrestling that Belal brings to the table. It's not that Shavkat isn't talented, he clearly is, but his style depends on having time to set things up, and Belal doesn't give you that. Belal is in your face from the jump, pressuring you with strikes, takedowns, and consistent movement. Shavkat has shown in his fights, like the one with Garry, that when someone doesn't let him dictate the pace, he starts to look uncomfortable. Then there's the cardio issue. Shavkat's gas tank is solid, but it's not Belal's level. Belal can go full speed for 5 rounds without slowing down, while Shavkat tends to fade when the fight gets scrappy, and he has to work harder than he used to. Against Belal, that's a death sentence. The guy doesn't give you a second to rest. He'll just keep grinding you down until you're completely out of steam. And let's talk about the wrestling. Shavkat's grappling is good, but his takedown defense hasn't been tested by someone like Belal. And if Garry, who's more of a striker, gave Shavkat trouble in the clinch, imagine what Belal's gonna do. Once Belal gets Shavkat to the ground, it's game over. He's not just going to hold you there, he's making you work consistently while staying in control. Shavkat hasn't shown that he can deal with those kind of suffocating styles. At the end of the day, Shavkat's just not used to fighting someone who brings that kind of relentless pressure. You know, the pace that Belal brings, the cardio, and the wrestling will all overwhelm him. And I don't see Shavkat having the tools to deal with him. It's not a knock on Shavkat, it's just that Belal's style is a nightmare for someone like him. Alright, look. And I already know what some of you guys are thinking. Oh, you're just jumping on the narrative because Shavkat had a rough performance. But let me stop you right there. It's not just about this one fight. He's been showing these same issues in his last 3 fights against ranked opponents. This isn't new, it's just getting harder to ignore now that we've seen him struggle multiple times. Let's be real though. I think we kind of overhyped Shavkat. Don't get me wrong, he's a great fighter, super talented, but the way people were talking about him, acting like he was this unbeatable machine, that's where we went too far. Watching him closely, you can see the flaws in his game, and I'm telling you right now, he's not beating Belal Muhammad. In fact, most of the ranked guys at the welterweight division wouldn't beat Belal. That's just how good Belal is right now. If I had to pick 2 fighters who might have a shot at beating Belal, it would either have to be Kamaru Usman and maybe Sean Brady. But yeah guys, that is my thoughts on the entire thing. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.